Alright YouTube, so in this video we're going to be changing the rear brake pads on a 2015 Toyota Highlander. This will be a step-by-step video on how to do it. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is get this side jacked up so we could take the tire off. You're going to want to go to the factory jack spots on the vehicle, which in the rear is going to be right in front of the rear tire. And you'll know because there's going to be little grooves right there, you can see them, on where the jack goes. And then you could just jack it up like that. So there's two ways to take off the rear tire. The easiest way is if you have an impact, you just jack it up, put your 21 millimeter on here and spin them off. If you don't, you're gonna have to keep the tire on the ground and use a big wrench or a breaker bar to break each of the... Okay, so this is what it looks like with the tire off. Right here is the brake caliper. Inside there is gonna be your brake pads. All right, so I'll show you how to take those off real quick. All right, so you're just gonna take off these two bolts right here. There's one up top, there's one at the bottom. Take those out and this whole top piece will slide out and then you could access your brake pads. So if for whatever reason you have an issue with the bolt spinning, which does happen sometimes, just grab a wrench or some vice grips to hold down that inner bolt like this one is. That way you could get the outside one out. Okay, so once the bolts are out, you're just gonna slide it on out like this. If it doesn't come out, you could use a screwdriver. But now we're accessing the brake pads. Make sure you set this so it doesn't hang on the brake line. So just gonna set it up there and we're gonna dive into these pads now. Okay, so these are the brake pads. We'll take a mental image of how the clips look or a picture. That's that. That's on the inside. So now all we have to do is just pop them out, take your little flat blade, and out they go. Set them down, get the other one, and then show you the next step. Okay, so these are the new brake pads. This is the ones we took out. That's how much pad you have in there. That's what we're looking at as compared to what we did have, which is almost nothing. So now we're gonna have to reuse this little metal clips right here. So I'll show you how to pop them on the new one. All right, so this is a little metal tab that comes out. It sits on the brake like this, right in there. You're just gonna take a screwdriver and pop it out, and then you're gonna put it on the new one like that, like so. See if I could show you real quick. Like that. All right, so once the new one's on, it's gonna look like that. That way you could go ahead, you could take your brakes, your new pads, and then you're gonna slide them in here. And then I'll show you how to seat them in there. You're going to slide the metal piece into this little bracket. And then up here, you're just gonna slide in that bracket and then push it all the way onto the rotor. And do the same thing with the other side. All right, this is what it looks like when it's all on there. Now we're gonna go ahead and put this back on, but first we are going to flip it over and we're gonna push this piston back in. I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so this is how we're gonna get the clamp back in, if you can see that. So you're gonna take your vice grip, you're gonna put a pad on the piston, and then you're just gonna squeeze it back in. That's what the piston's gonna look like when it's all the way seated back. Now we're just gonna go ahead and slide it back on the caliper. It just slides right on. Okay, we're just gonna put those final two bolts on like that. We're gonna crank those down. They are 14 millimeter. And then we are gonna put the tire back on. So quick tech tip on reinstalling a tire, especially if it's heavy. You can put your feet under the side and you can lift it up as much as you need to line up the lug nuts. So putting lug nuts back on, always start it by hand. Twist it all the way in till it stops. You're gonna wanna do every single one. This is gonna hold the tire in balance. Now, once everything's snug, then that's when you're going to start cranking it down. Now with an impact, I am just going to do a star pattern if with it up in the air. If I didn't have an impact, then I would lower it back down to the floor and then do the star pattern with a wrench, and then finish it off with a bigger breaker bar to make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, so the tire is back on. So now what we're gonna do is go to the jack, and then so it doesn't slide out on you, just make sure that you let it down slower, and then we'll jump to the other side. Okay, so we got the tires back on. The last thing you need to do once you set it down is you need to go to your brake, and then you need to give it some presses because it will be loose. And what that's doing, once it's on top, you'll be set. What that's doing is pushing the brake fluid back to the brakes. Now, the reason it's doing that is because you pushed the piston in, which pushed the brake fluid in, and then now you need the piston to seat up against the brake pads. So once that's done, you're ready, start it up, drive it, enjoy it. Okay, so that's a wrap up on the rear brake change on the Toyota Highlander. Hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I made it easy for you to do it, and then you'll catch me on the next video. Like and subscribe, please.